Hello there, everybody. It's been a while, but welcome back to LT's Sweet Boxing Science. It may have been a little while since I've been live on the channel, but a fight week this big, I just couldn't miss. Delighted to be back on the channel, delighted to be getting Liam's fight night picks back off the ground, and no better man to have joining me than my good friend Sam from SW Fight Hub. Firstly, mate, how are we?
Yeah, really good, mate. Delighted to be on the channel. Maybe a first, I think it is.
Yeah.
To be fair, so yeah, delighted to be as we mentioned on the opposite sides of the screen just for a little bit. But yeah, what a fight week, as you say. I'm absolutely buzzing for it after a really quiet and slow August. It felt like.
Yeah, definitely. Look, August is notorious for being a slow month, and I think the one card that we got in the form of Atalma and White ended up being a bit of a non-event, if that makes sense. So yeah, we're desperate to get our teeth sunk into something, and we got three fantastic cards. Look, we're going to jump from Vegas to Belfast, out to Japan. I mean, if you're a boxing fan this weekend, you don't need to be anywhere else other than in front of your TV screen, do you?
Correct, yeah. We've got no UK broadcaster, I don't think, yet for the Japan card, but I'm sure DAZN will pick that up. I'd be gobsmacked if they didn't. And yeah, Netflix and the other ones on DAZN in Belfast. So yeah, hopefully we can watch all three cards. That would be
Fingers crossed. But let's get started, mate. So we're going to start with, for me, bar the main event, the most intriguing fight of the undercard from Vegas on Saturday night. And it's Christian Mbili and Lester Martinez, two unbeaten fighters, but you could say two unbeaten fighters with varying profiles. I mean, Mbili is number one. He was number one with the WBO and the WBC. He's now the WBC's interim champion. So that's obviously the only governing body that's going to recognize him for the time being. On the other side of things, Martinez is 19-0 himself, but a relatively unknown quantity. I mean, this is a fantastic piece of matchmaking and a fight that Mbili didn't really need to take, did he, with what he's sitting on?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Yeah, I actually only found out earlier that Lester Martinez is in the BOMAC camp as well.
Yes.
So I actually thought this was the co-main event of the card on Saturday, but it's actually Callum Walsh against Fernando Vargas. Apparently because BOMAC's on duty with Crawford, which probably does make sense to be fair, but it's the people's co-main event, shall we say, Mbili versus Martinez. Like you say, two undefeated punchers. Credit to Mbili, credit to Lester Martinez as well for taking it, to be fair. The winner has to have one eye on the main event, as you say, with the positioning, especially of Mbili.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it should be the main event, but for obvious reasons, BOMAC needs to be with Crawford, doesn't he, before that fight? And if rumours are to be believed, and they're going to pace this like they do a UFC card rather than a boxing card, BOMAC wouldn't really have time to get back and get ready to go. And plus, Callum Walsh is Dana's sort of boxing golden boy, isn't he? So he deserves a good slot.
Exactly.
Look, you've just mentioned that they're both punchers. I mean, Mbili's had one fight this year, which he got done inside a round. It was 3 knockdowns, I believe, before the referee jumped in the fight. Then he was in with Deverenchenko before that, which went late, before blowing away Mark Hefferon inside 2 or 3 rounds. So the rounds are the question, aren't they, for Mbili? If Lester Martinez is able to get through those first 2 or 3 rounds, is he going to be able to ask questions?
Yeah, I think so. And I think we find quite a lot as well. And it's something that when I was kind of looking at the fight before it happened, obviously Mbili based out of Canada, Martinez, Guatemalan, I think, but obviously fights in America. So, you know, not two guys that we watch all the time. But when two punchers normally collide, I always think that I always lean towards fights going the distance, almost like, you know, okay, I'm wary of you, you're wary of me. So like we said the other day when we were talking, it has the potential to be the fight of the weekend. And if we get two guys sitting in the pocket and having it out, we could get an absolute war. But I always think that when two big punchers get in against each other, then 9 times out of 10, they have that wariness of what the other one can bring.
It just, most of the time, they sort of cancel each other out, don't they? They don't want to be the one that takes the first shot. And it becomes, we find out actually they're better boxers than we've ever given them credit for, because they're forced to show a different side to their game. But let's not waste any more time on this. How do you see Christian Mbili and Martinez going down? Probably, I think it's the first fight on Netflix, so around 2 a.m. for us in the UK on Sunday morning.
Is it honestly the first fight on the main card?
They're putting it first or second on the main card, so early doors, mate.
Okay, well, that changed my alarm clock anyway, because I won't be missing that. Maybe I'll do the full card. Christian Mbili, for me, will get the job done. I think he's just got slightly more experience. Martinez dangerous, and maybe if it ends in a stoppage, it could be Martinez just catching him. But I think you have to favour Christian and Billy. I think he's took the fight for a reason. I do think it'll go to the judges' scorecard though. But yeah, Martinez dangerous, but I think you have to edge to Christian and Billy in this one.
Yeah, I completely agree with what you say. I mean, everything that we've seen, and that's even by doing a bit of research into it, sort of leans towards Christian and Billy. He has shown he can box before. We have seen him go, the distance and actually look relatively comfortable with it. Martinez, I do agree. If there's going to be a stoppage in this fight, I think it's Martinez catching in Billy. Maybe on the way in and Billy's tired, he's comfortable in the fight.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. Smart money is on Christian and Billy via decision, and he will maintain his WBC interim title, of course, with one eye on the fascinating main event, which we'll come on to in a little bit.
100%.
So we're going to dash across. We're going to leave Allegiant Stadium in Vegas behind for a minute, and we're going to move over to Belfast for the rematch between Lewis, not Liam Crocker, Lewis Crocker and Paddy Donovan. Someone at Matchroom is getting fired after the mistake with Troy Williamson on Saturday.
It was DAZN. It was DAZN.
Yeah. Mate, whoever it is running their accounts has had a shock in the last few months.
Liam Crocker.
Anyway, look, we're getting the rematch. The first fight in March went the way I was expecting. Look, I'm a bit of a humble brag here. I did say all through the lead up to that fight that I thought Paddy Donovan was outboxing and stopping late. Okay, we didn't get the late stoppage because of the disqualification, and I'm not for a minute.
Yeah, we pretty much did, though.
Yeah, I'm not excusing the disqualification from Paddy. That's something to learn. But my biggest question here is, Crocker, what can he take from that first fight? What can him and Billy Nelson take from the Odyssey Arena, or whatever it's called now in Belfast in March, other than the fact that they got lucky with they got handed a disqualification victory? Because for my money, Crocker won the first round and then didn't win another of the 6 completed rounds. Or am I being unfair on that fight?
No, Paddy Donovan dominated the fight. You are right. Me and Jay both picked Lewis Crocker to beat Paddy in the first fight. I won't get into my prediction right now, but yeah, just Crocker has to change everything. Billy's come out and said, I don't want to talk about it, but something happened the day of that fight. It just sounds like, and I love Billy, of course. It just does sound like an excuse, to be honest. And he's got to change everything. I think Lewis has to drag Paddy Donovan into a dog fight. Because the skills are clearly with Paddy Donovan. We saw that in March, the last time that they fought. What can change in literally a week over 6 months? In my opinion, not a lot. Maybe if the roles flip and Paddy's off on Saturday night and Lewis is 100% on, which is possible. Look, Lewis fighting in his hometown for the IBF Welterweight Championship of the World. If you need any motivation to get up for that, then you're in the wrong game. He has got everything for him going for him this Saturday. Paddy Donovan's going to come into an absolute raucous atmosphere at Windsor Park. It's going to be incredible. But yeah, everything naturally lies with Paddy Donovan for me in this fight. It really does.
Yeah, mate, I couldn't agree with you more. And obviously, we are fans of Billy on the channel. We've had some good chats with him, both on camera and obviously privately over the last year or so, and he's always good value for his time. But yeah, look, I do wonder if we were going to get this rematch without the fact Boots moved up. I know that's a cynical way to look at it. We know it was lobbied for and ordered, but would have Billy and Crocker moved in a different direction if there wasn't a world title on the line? Look, we're never going to know the answer to that, and I'm sure
it would have been a horrendous matchup for Crocker, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Let's just be honest about it. It would have been tough.
Yeah, let's touch on Paddy Donovan, obviously under the tutelage of Andy Lee, and he was in complete control. Yes, I know there was the 3 fouls, and he, you can be cynical and say, well, he done it once and then he carried on doing it, so he got what he deserved. And I can hear that argument because 3 strikes and you're out. But surely, if you are in that Paddy Donovan team this week, you want to follow the same game plan, just minus the indiscretions, don't you? Because there was a clear blueprint to beat Lewis Crocker, wasn't there?
Yeah, it was evident to see. It was complete. I know that there's the argument about the heads and this, that, and the other, but one man in the ring on March the 1st was clearly on top, and it was Paddy Donovan. Look, he can't really have any complaints about the defeat. It was what it was, but you'd like to think that he's learned his lessons. It may be a little bit of inexperience, adrenaline, so on and so forth. The reasons behind it are the reasons behind it, but He can't really ask for anything better now. He's got the rematch with the world title on the line, so.
Yeah, and you can't, like you say, mate, you cannot ask for anything better. It's the exact pressure cooker cauldron that both fighters thrive off. And if they both can't produce their best on Saturday night, then they're not in the right sport. But IBF world title on the line in the 147 division, plenty of options there. As you know, me and Jay were having a discussion on Sunday. There's plenty of options at 147, even in-house with Matchroom off the back of who wins this fight. But how do you see it going, the rematch between Crocker and Donovan?
Yeah, like I said, I picked Lewis to win the first fight by stoppage. I'll completely reverse in this fight. I think Paddy's got too much for him. I honestly don't see what can change in that short period of time. However, if this big mysterious thing that happened to Crocker on fight night last time was true, then we'll all be proven wrong. So let's see. But safe play has to be with Paddy from what we saw in March.
Yeah, look, I'm not changing my prediction from March. I predicted then Paddy to stop him late, which he was on his way to doing before the DQ, and I'm going to stick with the same here. I've said between rounds 8 and 10, I think, when I was asked on X yesterday. So I'll stick with something similar. Paddy Donovan and the new IBF champion of the world, somewhere between round 8 and 10 on Saturday night. But look, the options are endless for whoever wins that fight, and Matchroom can look to keep that belt and the division really in-house.
Conor Benn will get a shot at the winner, I think. Yeah. Well, I don't know. Paddy Donovan's probably a bad fight for Conor as well, but look, we'll see.
Okay.
We'll see.
We're going to find out. But let's move on. So we're going to leave Saturday night behind for a minute, and we're going to go to what will be Sunday lunchtime for us here in the UK, and it's the return of the monster. Look, we praise Inoue. He fights 2, 3, 4 times a year, and this is another absolute barnstormer of a fight. And I've said here, is it his toughest test to date? And is he going to be able to keep delivering at boxing's top table time after time after time? Because this run now stretches 6 or 7 years. At some point, logic tells you it's going to catch up with him, doesn't it?
Yeah. Look, he's been dropped by Ramon Cardenas in his last fight. Luis Nery had him on the deck, both left hooks, if memory serves correctly. MJ Akhmadaliev is going to be incredibly dangerous in Japan on Sunday. I've took a bit of stick for it. I've said it's probably as good as a 50-50 fight. Quickly follow that with Inoue should be the favourite, and rightfully is the favourite. But I think he's being over-egged as the favourite from what I remember with the bookies. MJ's not a joke. He lost to Parles for the only time in his career, and he was off that night for sure. He's been desperate for this opportunity. Matchroom and Eddie and Frank Smith have been peddling the wagon for a long time for MJ to get Inoue. And look, based on what we've seen in the Cardenas fight and Luis Nery and so on and so forth, this is probably the best time to get Inoue. He's not a young fighter anymore. He's into his 30s. He's coming up many weights that he has done. So MJ Akhmadaliev has got Inoue at the time. If he's going to get him, it'll be on Sunday morning, as you say over here. But I honestly cannot wait for the fight. It's going to be brilliant. And Inoue's got the chance to silence a lot of people, I think. And obviously MJ's got a chance to prove Matchroom and all their backers right as well. So brilliant fight.
Yeah, look, I think we've been saying it for a while with Inoue. We don't want to see the decline and see the drop off, but we're kind of waiting for it, if that makes sense, because he's been at this table for so long. I mean, he jumped onto our screens in the UK when he stopped McDonald's, didn't he? And that was 2018, 2019. Now in 2025, he's been at that top table. He's won the World Boxing Super Series. He's unified divisions. He keeps delivering time after time. And, MJ Akhmadaliev has the backing of Matchroom, but he has more than that. He has shown in the ring that he could potentially be the man that finally stops this Japanese juggernaut. I know he's coming up in weight, so there's that to come into play as well. But you have to admit, this is as good an opponent as we've seen him with Inoue for the last 12, 18 months. That is ready on the time. Luis Nery gave a better account of himself than we were expecting. So did Cardenas last time out. But this is a primed world champion going in there with Inoue on Sunday, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And MJ's got a good chin. Obviously, Inoue known for his power, but he can bang a bit as well. So just stylistically, I think it's going to be great to see Inoue try and figure out the puzzle of MJ, and it's going to be really interesting to see how MJ takes the power of Inoue. So yeah, look, I'll be absolutely knackered on Sunday morning. My eyes will probably be hanging out the back of my head. But yeah, cannot wait for it.
No, look, you can't miss this fight. Like you say, we're going to be putting in the night shift for the Canelo Crawford card, and you can't miss this fight. This is the type of fights we've been begging to see Inoue in. And short of Junto Nakatani, this is the next best fight for him. Nakatani is still the fight we want to see above everything else. But MJ Akhmadaliev is an incredibly, incredibly good fight. And there's more questions going into this than we've had for Inoue for quite a while. So let's get your prediction, mate. Sunday morning in Japan. The one thing we do know is we'll need some coffee to get through it. But how do we see the fight going?
Yeah, that's the concrete certainty, that is. I honestly think this one goes the distance as well, similar to what I was saying about the Billy Martinez. Both guys very dangerous, obviously, especially Naoya Inoue, who's been the distance, once or twice or something in his career. But MJ's a tricky puzzle. I think Inoue pulls through. I've got to be honest, I think Akhmadaliev will probably have to win every round to get the decision. Yeah. But he's not going to do that, and it will be a close enough fight, I think. But I do think there might be maybe a knockdown or something for Inoue. But I'm honestly not ruling out MJ. I'm really not. I think he's a very, very live dog in this fight, and it's a fight we've all called for a long time. But yeah, it's just hard to pick against Inoue. It really is.
Yeah, mate, I agree. And it's the fact it's in Japan. If this was possibly in America, you'd possibly make more of an argument for Akhmadaliev. But I agree with you. If we see an Inoue stoppage, it will be something I'm really impressed by seeing. That's not me saying I don't think he can do it, but I think it's going to be the kind of fight where he's forced to use his boxing more than his power. I just think he's a better boxer than Akhmadaliev. Akhmadaliev has the potential to get Inoue out of there because we know he's got that punching power. But I think Inoue is a better boxer, and he probably does take a unanimous decision. But if MJ does it, it's not something we'd be surprised by, is it?
Yeah, no, not in the slightest. I wouldn't be surprised.
No, definitely. But again, another cracking fight, another unification fight. Yeah. All of these fights have got a world title. And and Billy and Martinez is an interim title, but this is what we want to see from boxing.
Yeah.
And talking of what we want to see from boxing, go on, mate. Sorry.
I was going to say one thing that I just need to get off my chest. I looked at the boxing schedule for next week and versus what we've got this week, and we've got 3 top class cards on this week, and then you look at next week and there's next to nothing on. You going, who's done this to us? Not that no cards clash this week, which is fine. But just be nice to get them a little bit more spaced out, I think. But anyway, mate, sorry, let's get on to the
mate, I do agree. And if Crocker Donovan was clashing, say, with this Netflix card, then it's a completely different ball game. But we have no clashes. Yeah. But anyway, the main event, Dana White and TKO are finally, I think we can say that on the Tuesday of fight week, going to step into the boxing arena properly. Yes, they've had Callum Walsh fighting on the Fight Pass and for boxing platform for the last 3 or 4 years, but this is Dana White's boxing swan song, and he's only starting with a little fight, isn't he? It's just Canelo Alvarez against Terence Crawford. Nothing too major for him, but no, in all seriousness, it is the Mexican Hall of Famer going into his 68th career fight against Terence Crawford, who for us as boxing lovers and boxing purists, we rate him as highly as you can. But if he is able to unlock the Rubik's Cube that is Canelo in the early hours of Sunday morning for us, he steps into that all-time greats legends conversation on a grander scheme, doesn't he? First of all, mate, what do you make of the matchup?
Yeah, I've grown into it, to be fair. I wasn't that keen on it when it's been around about, 8-9 months it's been rumoured, and then it kind of, when Canelo left the whole Jake Paul thing, it kind of, we always knew it was going to happen before the Skull fight. Yeah, look, I honestly don't think the size difference is as big a deal as that's being made out, to be fair. Just looking at the first face-off last night and everything like that. Yes, Canelo's a lot thicker set and stuff like that, but I think Canelo's probably a natural 160, to be fair. So I think he's even fighting a little bit above his natural weight. But yes, Bud Crawford's won a 135-pound belt in his career. There's no doubt Canelo's the bigger guy in there. But Crawford is a tough, like you said, he's such a tough puzzle to solve as well as Canelo, but there's no hiding behind the fact that Canelo hasn't been in a real fight for for a while now. You know, look what Hamza Shiraz did to Edgar Berlanga last time out. That's really what Canelo should be doing if he's still at the top of his game. So look, incredibly interested around the you know, if this was a natural man the same size as each other, then Terence Crawford would be a huge favorite, but it's not. So, you know, you've got one side of the fence is the weight classes for a reason. Then the other side of the fence is Bud Crawford's just a generational talent. So good, you know, couldn't imagine him losing. You know, Canelo hasn't knocked anybody out since Caleb Plant. So will Bud's power transfer upwards? He didn't knock Madrimov out. Look, so many variables to go in. I'm incredibly interested in it. I'm actually really looking forward to it now. I think the promotion could have been a little bit better. I don't think it's got us quite as over as. Look, we could let's see what fight week brings, but there are definitely other fights of recent years that feel bigger than this. And just one thing to mention on it before I let you go on. I watched the Countdown documentary on Netflix where it said the best 2 fighters in the world facing off, which is incredibly untrue. Alexander Usyk would like to have a chat with the Netflix producers, I think.
And so with Naoya Inoue, if that documentary makes out to Japan. But no, look, I think the weight difference is being more peddled by people who don't know boxing as well as us. I mean, where did Canelo start his career? When he was 16, he was at 147. He won his first version of a world title against Magic Matthew Hatton at 154. If you go for that, you know, they are both fighters that have progressed up in weight throughout their career. So I don't think the weight jump for Crawford is as big as some people are making out.
Yeah.
I do also think that the fact we're getting this fight in 2025 rather than 2022, 2023 makes it a more even fight. Canelo, by his own admission, is starting to come down the hill. He's not saying it directly, is he? But he is admitting that he's starting to think about miles on the clock and what he's got left. Whereas Crawford's, we don't know where Crawford's ceiling is. Look, Canelo is close to 70 fights. That's throwing it back to the days of Muhammad Ali, Jack Dempsey, Marvin Hagler, etc., etc. You don't see fighters have those careers anymore. I honestly, when this fight was first talked about, thought it would be Canelo quite comfortably. You know, he'd be too big, too strong, too slick for Crawford. As we got closer, I've gone the same way as you. You actually look into it more and you look at their trajectories in recent years. It's a fantastic fight. Look, there's no doubt in this will be a career best victory from Crawford if he can pull it off. But the other side of the coin, like you mentioned, Canelo's last stoppage was Caleb Plant back when he unified at 168. Since then, he's lost and was, regardless of the scorecard, soundly beaten by Terence Crawford. He's gone 12 rounds with fighters that 5-6 years ago wouldn't have lasted 12 minutes with him. So there's a lot more question marks over Canelo Alvarez, but I'm fascinated to see it. I hope we get a fantastic spectacle. I just hope there's no controversy. When we're doing our reviews on Sunday or Monday, I hope it's clear on the scorecards. I hope it's not one of those we go, Canelo won it, but come on, we all know what was going on here. I just pray it's as good a fight as has the potential to be.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it'd be hard for Bud to get a decision in Vegas, but not impossible on Mexican Independence weekend. But I do think we'll get fair. And, you know, at the end of the day, Bud is the home fighter, if you want to call it that. He's the one Turkey wants to win. So take for that what you will. But look, Crawford's been inactive. That's one thing you can say about him as well. Canelo, has he been kind of carrying his opponents through and, you know, leaving a bit out there? These are all things that you have to take to consideration that are real possibilities. So, as you say, you said it's really, really fascinating. Yeah, I can't wait for it. I've gone back and forward, to be fair, on who I think will win, but I've kind of stuck to it for the last month or so. And I do think that Terence Crawford will get the job done on Saturday. I think he'll win a close look. I was listening to something earlier where I actually forgot the scorecards of the Bivol fight where he outlanded Canelo in every round, but he won 115, 113 on all 3 cards. You know, I'm not saying it'll be. I think they'll be fair because Crawford is Turkey's guy at the end of the day. But yeah, I think it'll be kind of 8-4, 7-5 to Terence Crawford, but he ain't knocking Canelo Alvarez out. He's just not. And I would be surprised if Canelo knocked Crawford out. But again, I listened to something earlier saying the KO is more likely from Crawford than Canelo. I disagree with that. I think if there's going to be a KO, it'll be Canelo, KO, and Crawford. But yeah, I'm good on points.
Bud on points. Just picking up on what you just said, and this I've taken this from what the Fight Disciples says on their preview that I listened to earlier on today. They said when Bivol beat Canelo 115-113, you can make a conclusive argument that he won 9 rounds and he still only got it 7-5 on the scorecards.
Yeah.
If you want to go for that template, we need to be looking at Crawford conclusively winning 9 rounds if we're going to get that sort of judging again, which we're not suggesting we are, but that's the realms we're in. Look, I've done exactly the same as you. I've leaned towards quite comfortably towards Canelo to the complete other end of the spectrum. I just favour Bud Crawford. I mean, you mentioned the fact we've not seen him in 14 months by the time he gets in the ring. That's standard for Terence Crawford. He's never been
the
most active. Yeah, it's a massive shame that he's never been a more active fighter, especially ever since he beat Julius Ndongo to unify that division 5-6 years ago. We've never seen him be an active fighter, which is a massive shame. But that layoff in activity means nothing to me. We know that he's been putting on the weight properly, he said, since December of last year. So he's not rushed this. He's done this properly. He looks fit and in good shape across his back, doesn't he, from what we've seen yesterday? Obviously,
he does.
Weigh in on Friday will be the best indication. But I just have a feeling that this is the time to catch Canelo. This is the time of his career where we're starting to see not a decline, but a drop-off in where his levels were 4 or 5 years ago. And Terence Crawford is that good and that skillful that he's going to be able to take some points for me.
Yeah. No, I'm definitely with you. But look, I think it's a 50-50. Canelo will be the favourite and probably should be the favourite. But, yeah, there's a lot of people picking Bud out there. A lot.
Yeah, mate, I couldn't agree with you more. But that brings to an end predictions for this week. Look, it's great to be back on the channel. There'll be some shorts previewing the fights coming. There'll be reaction coming probably on Sunday once I've had a bit of kip after all these fights, reviewing as well. And the channel's going to get moving again. A big thank you to Sam for coming on this show.
Thanks for having me, mate. Enjoyed it.
If you've just come across the channel, and aren't already subscribed to what you're doing, hit the bell so you don't miss a video. And if you haven't had enough of seeing us, we will be joined by JFT in the next 10 minutes for No Punches Pulled over on the SW.